Hey folks, how you doing? I'm just gonna do a live stream here, reacting to what happened. But if I can just, just trying to figure out how to get this to go horizontally. It's very annoying the way this is set up, but it looks like I've got to do it this way. So we're gonna have a sideways live. We're gonna have a horizontal or a vertical live rather than a horizontal one. But here I am in front of my bookshelf. So if you haven't seen, there was a horrendous terrorist attack in Iran a few hours ago. People in Iran were gathering to commemorate the 4th anniversary of the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. There was a crowd of people, and in that crowd, there was a bomb. The bomb was apparently, in bags, in plastic bags, and it was detonated remotely. It wasn't a suicide bomber, it was detonated remotely. And the bomb exploded. 103 people are reported to have died. 188 are injured, according to some reports. Some are saying only 144, but they expect this number will rise. But there's many of the people that are injured that are in very serious condition. Just an utterly horrendous and criminal act. Who would murder a group of people that are mourning the loss of their national hero? When Donald Trump murdered Qasem Soleimani, that was utterly cowardly. He basically shot him in the back. They lured him to Iraq to peace negotiations, and as he was leaving, as he was headed to the airport, they blew up his car. Now we understand that on the 4-year anniversary, when people were gathering to peacefully mourn in a peaceful ceremony the loss of this great leader of the Islamic Republic, as the people were in the streets marching as part of the memorial procession, this bomb was exploded, and this is just horrific. This is utterly horrific. The Islamic Republic of Iran is a country that is the strongest ally of the Palestinians at this point. They are the center of resistance in the Middle East right now. The Houthis that are, the Ansarullah organization that are stopping the ships in the Red Sea, Hezbollah that have stood with the Palestinians, the Islamic Jihad in Palestine, many organizations that are fighting for the Palestinians draw their inspiration from the Islamic Republic. And it seems like ever since October 7th, the Netanyahu faction has been determined to escalate this crisis into a full-on war against Iran. They will be satisfied with nothing less. They want Israel and the United States to go to war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that's why they murdered a top Iranian general in Syria, leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards who was in Syria. Top leader was murdered, and the United States revealed that Israel is responsible for that murder. Israel denied involvement, but now the United States has revealed it. And it seems that the Netanyahu faction is desperate to somehow get the war with Iran that they very much want out of this crisis. That raises a lot of questions. Why? Why are they so desperate for this? Is this Netanyahu, is this the only way he can see his political career continuing? Is it because the Middle East is slipping out of their fingers, is out of the fingers of the domination of the West? Iran and Saudi Arabia have diplomatic relations again and are friendly, and the Middle Eastern countries of the world are uniting in their support for the Palestinians. And is it because of that? And they're desperate to have the war now as they see that the floodwaters are rising and that Israel is just losing all its credibility on the international stage? I don't know. And we're waiting for details about who could be responsible for this horrendous terrorist attack that just happened. Questions remain. People are suggesting it's very likely that this was Israel that did it. People are suggesting that it's possible this could have been the Mujahideen Khalq, which is an extremist organization, formerly communist, formerly like an Islamo-communist sect that now works for Israel and has assassinated Iranian nuclear scientists in Iran on behalf of Israel, is tied to the Republican Party and neoconservatives in the United States, that perhaps it was MEK that was responsible. Some people are suggesting that this could be the work of Sunni separatist groups that want to break the Sunni regions that are close to Afghanistan away from Iran. We're waiting for details about who could be responsible. Generally, when you have a horrendous terrorist attack like this, the terrorists claim responsibility. You have a terrorist group that comes forward and says, we did this, because they want to intimidate. This is a strategy of terror, right? Is that they want to make people terrified. They want to make people in Iran afraid to go out and attend public gatherings to support their revolution. And they want to demoralize people within the Islamic Revolution, within the Islamic Republic, that are big supporters of the Revolutionary Guard and big supporters of the slain leader Qasem Soleimani. And we'll see who is directly responsible for this. It obviously came from forces that are hostile to the Islamic Republic. It obviously came from forces that are aligned with Israel. But whether Israel itself is directly responsible, whether this was the Mujahideen Khalq, whether this was, some people say ISIS could be responsible, because ISIS, for example, ISIS has carried out a number of attacks in Iran before. They carried out some bombings. So regardless, we're waiting for the details to find out who carried this out. But the timing and the target indicate that this was clearly a pro-Israeli action aimed at not just Iran, not just the Islamic Revolution, but aimed at the hardliner wing, those who admire Qasem Soleimani, those who feel that what the previous Iranian president was doing, what Rouhani did with the Iran nuclear negotiations, was a failure. This is someone's attempt to demoralize and weaken the hardliner wing of the Islamic Republic. And that's why they murdered Qasem Soleimani, who is Iran's national hero, the leader of the Quds Force, of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's why they murdered this recent, this recent killing of the top Iranian general in Syria. And now we have a situation where they have killed, at this point, 103 people that were just attending a peaceful funeral procession for Iran's national hero. One thing I will say that just absolutely frustrates me, especially among people who are smarter on some issues, is that among the Trump camp, among people that are more open to criticism of U.S. support for Ukraine and others, you have this blind spot when it comes to Iran. And I want you to take a look at what just happened, because terrorists bombed a funeral procession in Iran and killed 103 people. Iran is not a terrorist country. And there is just a huge amount of confusion about this. Osama bin Laden, the perpetrator of the 9/11 attacks, was from Saudi Arabia. He was not from Iran. He was a Wahhabi, a follower of the Saudi interpretation of Islam. The Iranians are Shia Muslims that follow Imam Khomeini and his revolutionary tradition, completely different. ISIS are Wahhabis, practitioners of the Saudi interpretation of Islam, not Shias like the Iranians are. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the folks that went through Syria and were trying to overthrow the Syrian government and murdered so many Christians, the folks who overthrew Gaddafi, the Manchester bomber, right? Remember Manchester? Well, that individual who carried out that horrendous bombing in Manchester, killed a whole bunch of innocent civilians, was an ally of the United States. He was somebody, a British citizen, that was sent to Britain to fight Gaddafi because he had this Wahhabi ideology. If you're against terrorism, you should not hate Iran, because Iran is a country that doesn't support terrorism. The terrorism is coming from allies of the United States. Osama bin Laden was an ally of the United States. The Manchester bomber was an ally of the United States who fought against Gaddafi. ISIS emerged from the allies of the United States in Iraq and in Syria that were fighting against the Syrian Arab Republic and fighting against Shia Muslims in a sectarian way. And that all these people, they just say, well, Iran, they're Muslims, so they must all be terrorists. No, Iran has helped to stabilize Syria and defeat ISIS on the battlefield. Iran fought against ISIS on the battlefield of Iraq. Iran very much wanted to stabilize Afghanistan. Iran is trying to establish friendlier relationships with Saudi Arabia. And, it's just utterly wrong. It's utterly wrong. It's just utterly wrong to characterize Iran as a terrorist country. Iran is a victim of terrorism. The United States shot down an Iranian airliner and killed a whole bunch of innocent people and never apologized for it. The United States has put horrendous sanctions on Iran, has backed extremist rebels that bombed and killed people in Iran, has backed the Mujahideen at Khalq, a brutal terrorist organization that's killed all kinds of innocent Iranians. Iran is not a terrorist country. Their revolution, their Islamic revolution, had a violent component to it, absolutely. And Iran very much aligns itself with the Palestinians and their armed resistance against Israel. But when you see horrific things like people just blowing up a crowd full of people that are mourning, or people blowing up a concert in Manchester, these are allies of the United States. And I hear so many people that don't know anything, and they just think because Iran is a Muslim country, because Iran is against Israel, that Iran is the same as Al-Qaeda, that Iran is the same as Osama bin Laden, that Iran is the same as ISIS, and that's just not true. That's not actually true. Some things are true and some things are not. The Zarnev brothers, who bombed the Boston Marathon, very similar to what was done here in Iran. You had a big crowd of people that was gathered, and they blew up the crowd. Were they Iranians? No. Were they Shia Muslims? No, they were Sunnis. They were Wahhabis. They were allies of the United States who had fought against the Soviet Union in Chechnya. The horrendous terrorism that's done in the name of Islam is carried out by Wahhabi extremists who are aligned with the United States, whether they fought on the side of the United States in Afghanistan, like the father of the Pulse nightclub shooter, whether they fought on the side of the United States in Chechnya, like the Zarnev brothers and their parents, whether they fought on the side of the United States in Syria, like al-Nusra and ISIS, whether they fought on the side of the United States in Libya, like the Manchester bomber who blew up the concert in Manchester, whether they fought on the side of the United States in Afghanistan, like the New Jersey bomber. The terrorism perpetrated in the name of Islam is it's almost always done by Wahhabis, people that are adherents of the Saudi interpretation of Islam and are aligned with the United States. This is what people don't seem to get. The reason that we see terrorist attacks like this happening around the world, being carried out by people who often speak in the name of Islam, is because in order to fight the Soviet Union, in order to fight the Islamic Revolution of Iran, in order to fight the Syrian Arab Republic, and in order to fight the Islamic Socialist Jamara, the republic in Libya under Gaddafi, the United States has cultivated extremist fanatics to go and bomb and murder people. And those are the people that brought you 9/11. And those are the people that brought you the Manchester bombing. And those are the people that brought you the horrendous terrorist attacks. And we'll wait and see, but it looks like it is maybe perhaps one of these forces, or maybe just blatantly, directly Israel, that carried out this horrendous attack. We're waiting for the details about who carried out this attack, but Iran is the victim here. They were having a peaceful funeral procession to honor their national hero, Qasem Soleimani, and somebody thought that was a great opportunity to set off a bomb and kill at least 103 innocent people. And so please stop calling Iran a terrorist country. Stop calling Iran a terrorist country. Iran is not a terrorist country. Iran is a victim of terrorism. Terrorism from ISIS, terrorism from Israel, terrorism from the United States, terrorism from the Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK. Iran is the victim of terrorism. Iran is not a perpetrator of terrorist attacks. And it's very important that people understand this, because there's, after the murder of Qasem Soleimani, I saw so many people say that Qasem Soleimani had killed American soldiers. When did that happen? He didn't kill American soldiers. They say, well, he was responsible for U.S. troops dying in Iraq. I don't think that's the case. Those IEDs that were planted in Iraq were largely planted by Wahhabi and Saudi-tied extremist groups, right? And there would have been resistance to the United States in Iraq. No matter what, if you invade a country, people are going to fight the occupier. They said that Qasem Soleimani was like ISIS. No, Qasem Soleimani killed ISIS. He fought ISIS on the battlefield in Syria, heroically. The Islamic Revolutionary Guards were one of the main forces fighting against ISIS. So that's just a lie, right? And now we have an example of a horrendous terrorist attack in which 103 people have been killed. And this horrendous terrorist attack was carried out against the Islamic Republic. And I get very frustrated when people conflate the Islamic Republic of Iran with the horrendous forces that are aligned with the United States. And it's bizarre, but they create this, this psychological game where forces aligned with the United States, like the Manchester bomber or the Zarnev brothers or the ISIS forces that attacked France and Paris, that those forces carry out a horrendous attack, and then they use that to stoke Americans up to hate Iran. Iran is not the country that has anything to do with that. Iran is the victim. The victim of these kinds of horrendous attacks. And the way the United States spins it, the way U.S. media spins it, somehow these kinds of horrendous attacks in which Iran is the victim, carried out by Iran's enemies, are a justification for further attacks and sanctions and regime change and attacks on Iran. Iran is a victim here. Iran has been the victim of so much terrorism since they dared have their revolution. 1979, they overthrew a U.S.-backed dictator, the Shah. They toppled the Shah, and they set up a society in which profit and money was secondary to a mass religious movement of anti-imperialist forces, led by the Supreme Leader, led first by Khomeini and now by Supreme Leader Khamenei. I'm not a Muslim. I don't have the Islamic faith as my background. But they are revolutionaries. They are fighters against oppression. They are fighters for justice. They're allies of the people of Palestine, people in Gaza. They're allies of the people in Yemen. They're allies of the people in Lebanon. And Iran is the victim of terrorism, and it is important to point out these facts. I'm sharing all of this with you all. I'm just kind of reacting on here to the horrendous terrorist attack. I got up this morning and I went to I stopped by briefly by the memorial service for the grandfather of a friend of mine. Then I went and took care of some business in Manhattan that I had to tend to, and then I went to the bank, and then I came home, and now I'm just reacting to this horrendous news, this horrendous news. And my heart goes out to the Islamic Republic. My heart goes out to the people of Iran that were, and I will say that, you know, the reason the Islamic Republic is strong and doesn't surrender is because there are many, many people who believe in the Islamic Republic and are willing to give their lives for it. In the Shia Islamic tradition, they teach that a martyr is the most honored person by God, the one who gives his life for God, and that to be a martyr is the highest honor and gets you the most love and forgiveness from God that you could ever possibly get if you give your life for a cause. That's what they teach. And Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, he said the same thing. I'll read to you what Jesus Christ said, right? I often think of this particular passage. I think of this a lot when I think about the Islamic Revolution and the sacrifices that they've made and everything. I often come back to this passage from the book of Matthew verses 10, right? Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. Jesus said to his followers, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to this earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be members of his own household. And anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. And whoever finds their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." Meaning whoever finds their life will lose it. Meaning that if you make peace with this system, if you make peace with this world, if you make peace with the forces of evil that run this world, you find your life in this society, you'll go to hell. It's not your job to be at peace with a society full of evil. It's not your job to acquiesce and accommodate a world full of so much evil and oppression. It's not your job. Whoever finds their life shall lose it. But whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Meaning that our job is not to find our life and accommodate with this evil world. Our job is to oppose it. Oppose it so much so that we would be killed for standing up against the evils of this world. Whoever loses their life shall find it. And anyone who welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. And whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you that that person will certainly not lose their reward. These are bold words that Jesus Christ is telling his followers. Do not suppose that I come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. He's saying he's not here to make everything right. He's here to cause conflict. He is here to stir things up. He is here to tear things down and shake things up. He is here to cause controversy. He's here to make a lot of people angry. He's here to cause disagreement, discord. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be those of his own household. And it goes on to say, whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Meaning that you're expected to make sacrifices. Meaning that you're expected to forego the comfort and stability of living a life on your knees. You're instead expected to stand up and face the persecution that comes with standing up for the truth in a world filled with lies and run by liars. Whoever finds their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. I think about that a lot. I thought about that verse when I thought about Qasem Soleimani and his murder, his brutal assassination at the hands of the American government and by Donald Trump. Now, 4 years later, they can't even have a peaceful ceremony to mourn this national hero of the Islamic Republic who did so much to roll back the power of ISIS, did so much to roll back the forces of evil in that region. And they're just having a ceremony to commemorate him. And they bomb the ceremony and they kill 103 people. You know, absolutely horrendous. So I just wanted to speak about that. If anyone has any questions or anything they want me to respond to, I'm just kind of reacting to this horrendous attack, and I'm utterly I'm shocked by how committed certain forces are. I do not understand it. I just don't understand it. There are certain forces that are seeing what's happening in Gaza right now, are seeing what's happening in Syria right now, and are saying we just have to go full speed into a war with Iran. And I don't understand it. I mean, is this Netanyahu's selfish interest? He wants to prolong his political career? Is this fear that the Middle East is shifting and that Israel is losing its grip? I mean, I just don't understand why there are certain forces that just seem determined to bring on the apocalypse. Because that seems to be what's going on here. There are forces here. I mean, Israel seems to be at the lead that is just determined to bring on a full-scale war against Iran, a full-scale war with Iran, and that nothing short of that will satisfy them. And I don't understand it. You know, we are having a National Day of Action as the Center for Political Innovation on Sunday. People around the country, if you are watching this and you care about Yemen and you care about peace in the world, on Sunday I need people. I don't need it. The world needs it. But we at the Center for Political Innovation are calling for people around the country to be in the streets, with signs that say U.S. hands off Yemen, U.S. out of the Red Sea. And we want people to go out into their town square, into a park, into a public place with that sign. And we need as many pictures showing the Yemeni people. There are people in America who don't want them to be attacked, who don't support a U.S. fight with the Houthis, right? So anywhere, any part of the country that you're in, a sign that says U.S. out of Yemen, U.S. out of the Red Sea, U.S. hands off Yemen. Be nice if you put something that said Center for Political Innovation. You don't have to do that. Maybe you want to put the name of your political organization. Or maybe you just want to hold the sign, just make the statement. Don't make it affiliated with any group, that's fine. But I want to show the world on Sunday that there are enough people that care, that say that it is not in our interest as the United States to intervene in Yemen. That there's nothing for us to gain. I made a tweet and said there's nothing for America to gain in the Red Sea. And Twitter, what did Twitter do? Twitter put a community note next to it that said, well, actually, the seizing of ships in the Red Sea is causing the prices to go up by blah 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 blah. And I saw those community notes and I'm like, are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? We got a situation here where Twitter is desperate to make sure that people think a new world war or a new war and killing in the Gulf of Aden and Americans from Ohio and Kentucky and Pennsylvania getting shot and killed in the Red Sea is worth it. It's like, what kind of censor is there, right? I made a political statement and they then fact-checked it and gave me a fact check, which was that there might be a financial gain, that the Houthis' activities is causing us financial losses. Well, if you want the Houthis to stop seizing ships in Yemen, easy. Have Israel stop bombing Gaza. If Israel stopped its relentless assault on Gaza, then Ansar Allah would stop seizing ships. They're doing it to support the Palestinians because the Palestinians are being murdered and they have to do something. There has to be some effort to support the Palestinians. It's a picket line. It's an old-fashioned union picket line. They're enforcing a naval boycott of Israel until they stop killing them. And it's like, and is it making prices go up? Sure. But they got to do something. They got to do something. And Twitter says I'm wrong in saying there's nothing for Americans to gain in fighting against this. I'm wrong, right? Twitter wants to, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And again, it seems like there are forces within Israel that are determined to just go full speed into a war with Iran, and nothing else will satisfy them. And they must know that a war with Iran is also a war with Russia and China. That's World War III right there. A war with Iran, a war with Russia, a war with China. That's World War III. And I think most of humanity knows that World War III is not desirable. So why are they so desperate to do this? All we can do is stand up for truth. All we can do is stand up for peace. And that's, we want to make our little contribution. So, having some protests, U.S. out of Yemen, U.S. hands off the Red Sea, U.S. hands off Yemen, U.S. out of the Red Sea, having some people around the country display that they have those sentiments is something we can do. It's something that we can do, right? That's some kind of action we can engage in. Kazakhstan follows the Baltic states and Ukraine in the rehabilitation of Nazi collaborators. Not shocking. And the cancel culture only applies one way. And we've noticed that, right? The cancel culture, they'll do leaps and backflips to try and convince you I'm a Nazi, despite the fact that I've spent years as an anti-racist activist. But then they will blatantly honor and have torchlit marches for Stepan Bandera, and that's fine. They'll make Hollywood movies about Heinrich Harrer and 7 years in Tibet, and that's fine. But yet they scrutinize everything I do to try and reinterpret everything I say as if I'm somehow an anti-Semite. It just shows you how evil these people are, right? They bend over backwards trying to make me into a Nazi. And then they support actual Nazis without comment, without apology, without any discomfort in doing so. It just shows you how hypocritical these forces really are, how dishonest and how cynical they are. They're just blatantly self-serving at the end of the day. They're not working for anti-racism or LGBT rights or human rights. They're just working to make themselves wealthier. right? And they will work with anybody who will advance their own interest, and they don't care. They don't have any principles, right? And they will lie, and they will distort reality. And as far as they're concerned, anyone who opposes Western liberalism is fair game. They can murder you, they can smear you, etc. Um, you know, so there you go. There you go. If anyone else has anything else they'd like me to comment on, I can be on here for a little while longer. I just feel like this horrendous terrorist attack is worthy of my attention, because I've been to Iran, and I feel an attachment to the Islamic people and the Islamic Revolution of Iran and what they've been through. And I'm concerned about Yemen, and I just feel like this horrendous terrorist attack is worthy of my attention here at midday. It's a little bit after, it's almost 2 o'clock. It's 1:38 p.m. Eastern Time in New York City. You know, I'm thinking ahead. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work that we need to do. I want to build a real movement of solidarity so that people can come together with other people and fight for justice. And that's what we need urgently, a real movement of solidarity. We urgently need that. So, yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it, but what a horrendous terrorist attack, and what a criminal thing. And they call Iran terrorists, and then they do this to Iran, right? I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. We'll find out who the specific perpetrators are. We know what side this came from. There's no question about what side this came from. This came from Israel's side. This came from the pro-imperialist side. This came from the side of the people who hate Qasem Soleimani, who want to hurt the Islamic Republic. That's who it came from. The question is which division among them did it? Was it Mujahideen Khalq, the so-called Islamo-Marxists who worked for Saddam Hussein and then started working for the American government and killed Iranian nuclear scientists? Was it ISIS, Daesh? Was it Israel directly? Right? Did Israel just pull this off directly, like they did in Syria, where they just murdered the Iranian general? We'll find out soon enough who was responsible for this horrendous attack. We'll find out. But we know what side it came from. And there's no question about what side it came from. There's no question about what their intent was. Their intent was obviously to demoralize the Islamic Republic, to prevent the hardliner wing of the Islamic Republic from having public gatherings like this, make people afraid to go out to public gatherings, to support Qasem Soleimani, to support the Islamic Revolution. That's what this was. And it's just downright evil. I mean, I don't know any other words for it. I wish there was more creative, less dramatic words I could use to describe this, but this is an instance of Iran being the victim of horrendous acts of terrorism. And there's no other way around this. There's no other way to describe this. So I guess I thank you all for tuning in here and having a short chat with me. If there's anything else people want me to talk about, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm doing a patron stream tonight. So if you're a patron member, you'll have that link for tonight. But I'm not doing a regular stream tonight. Yeah. I'm doing a regular stream probably tomorrow. But thank you, everybody. Thank you. Say a prayer for Iran. And don't let anyone try to tell you that Iran is a terrorist country. Iran was responsible for 9/11. They were not. Right? We know who the terrorists are, and it's not the Iranians. They're the victims of terrorism here, and I think the world needs to be made aware of that. And I guess that's really all I've got to say. So, let's hope that we can move away from horrendous tragedies like this towards some kind of more peaceful world. So, thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.